Hi, everyone. So I don't think I've had a chance to formally introduce myself to you, so let me take that opportunity now. My name is Paula Edgar, and I am an attorney, and I'm from New York City, Brooklyn, to be exact. I am half Bayesian, half Jamaican, all Brooklyn. And I am an attorney, but I don't practice. And I'm giving you some background because I want to talk to you about why I'm talking to you about this topic. What I do, I have my own business, I'm an entrepreneur. And in that role, I do three things. One is consult. I consult in the areas of diversity and inclusion, which I'll be speaking about, as well as social media, which I love. Please follow me on Twitter at Paula Edgar, on Instagram, The Paula Edgar, on Facebook, Paula Edgar fan page, Snapchat, The Paula Edgar as well. Great. If there's something I missed, I'm sure I'm on there as Paula Edgar. So the second prong is I also do coaching. So I do one-on-one coaching with attorneys primarily, but a lot of other people, teaching them how to sort of get to the next step, whatever that is. If they're saying, I feel stuck where I am, or I feel like I need to advance, I walk them through how to do that. I serve as their accountability partner in that. But my favorite thing is this. So I speak to audiences. I talk about different topics, mostly a lot about social media, also a lot on branding, personal branding, as well as on leadership and networking strategies, right? So all of you who have been like, make sure you talk to that person, did you introduce yourself? It's because that's what I do, all right? I'm also a mother. I have 2 children and a husband. And I'm telling you all this because I want you to know why I'm coming to you with this subject. We're talking about a concept called implicit bias. If you've heard of it, or unconscious bias, raise your hand. Have you heard of this topic? Okay, but keep your hand up. If you think you can define it right now for me, if I told you to stand up and do it, keep your hand up. Okay, this is why, so I'm glad, because these significant hands went down because we hear the concept, but we don't really sort of know how it plays out. Basically, all of us have biases. Every single person in this room is biased. That doesn't mean that you're all evil. Some of you guys might be. But that doesn't mean that you all are evil. And then don't think that because people are biased, that means that they're bad. There are some people who are biased and are bad. They may be running for president. Anyway, so let me give you 2 examples, okay? The first example is this. There's an admissions officer. He's at a great school. He loves his job. He has 4 applications in front of him. He's reading them. He's really tired, but he's reading them, and there are 4 African Americans. There's 3 women and 1 man. He is a part of the diversity committee at his school. He also is the diversity contact at the school. He says out loud all the time, I care about diversity and inclusion. It's important to me. He selects 3 of the women, the black women, but not the man. Okay? All right. Another opportunity. We're in a courtroom. There's a judge. The judge says, there are 2 people represented in front of him, and one is a female attorney. And he says to the woman, you're wearing pants today. If you'd like to be heard, you need to put on a skirt. So when you come back, your argument will be heard in a skirt or a dress. Okay? 2 opportunities. One is literally outright bias. Like, you know the judge has issues, yes? Because he's saying, I'm not going to talk to you if you don't have a skirt on. And this is something that's actually happened and happens very often. And you'll hear this rhetoric over and again when you're in law school, that if you can't go on an interview unless you're in a skirt, so you hear it all the time. But the issue with the man who's an admissions officer, he says that he loves black people. He loves LGBT people. He is down for diversity. No, right? Yes, he is. He says this. So what's happening? Why is he not choosing the black man? Because maybe all of his life he's watched television, and in his mind, there's something going on when it comes to black men. Something that he can't actually identify, but unconsciously is coming out in his actions. That's where unconscious bias comes in. Like, you're not actively saying, well, forget this black dude, but it's happening. This is why, as pre-law students, this concept should be really scary to you, right? Because I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? But you're affecting me, right? So that makes me a little bit nervous. Now, just because I'm talking about it in this factor, like, listen, you can have unconscious biases that are for you, right? I prefer black women, or whatever it is, right? So I'm talking about it in the ways that it affects us in a bad way, but it can affect you in a good way. But let's think about this. How does unconscious bias show up in the law school setting? I just told you it shows up in admissions, right? So before you even get a chance to walk through the door, somebody might be like, I have an unconscious bias. They don't know, but it's just coming through, and then they decided not to select you, so you're not even there. What about in the classroom? If your professor is calling on every single person but you because of whatever that bias is that that person has towards you, that you don't actually know and that they don't actually know, what are you supposed to do? How do you even combat that? How do you even say, well, you know you haven't picked on me all year long, you must have an unconscious bias? Because really it could be an actual bias that they're just being silent about. That's why for me, I'm like, this is a scary concept, because what, are you biased against me or not? Let's discuss this, right? I want to know. How else does it show up? Administration, right? If you are connected with your administration in a really good way, good things can happen to you, right? People can invest in you and you can get access, okay? But let's just say that you are a student with a disability and a person has a unconscious bias that reflects on how they interact with you as a student with a disability, and you don't get opportunities in the same manner, or they don't look you in the eye, or they don't address you. That affects your trajectory in the school, does it not? Where else? Where else does it show up? What about outside of the law school? Because we talk about the experience of being a law student as really in the building, yes? Like, oh, well, here we are. But you law students outside of the building as well. You should be networking. I talked about the fact that I love networking. You should be networking at bar associations, at different events, right? Sorry. I'll wait, child. So what happens if that's affecting you outside? Opportunities may not be getting to you, or you may be getting more opportunities. I definitely have a conscious bias for people. I'm not going to say who, just in case this video goes viral, but I do, right? Now, employment. Has any of you ever heard of the study where resumes are given to folks? Look at the head nodding, right? And everybody whose name is Bill, John, Don, and Jane gets the opportunity to have their resume reviewed or get an interview. Lakeisha, LaShonda, Jamal, and Juan don't. Because that's an opportunity for both your conscious and unconscious biases to show up and be like, do we really want Lakeisha working here? Okay? Now, the title of this is, how do we combat it? And because I thought to myself, I like to be fun. I like to give you information in a way that you can access it and feel good when you leave. And I thought, this is not a fun proposition. It's not. But I'm going to give you some tools. And as someone who has worked in many law schools and continues to work with law students and lawyers today, I'm going to tell you what frustrates me the most about every single student, law student, undergrad, high school, my own children, is this. Are you ready? There are things that are available to you. There are resources that are there waiting for you to be had. And yet, you don't get them. You don't try to find them. You're like, nobody gives me anything. What are my resources? You don't go do anything about it. I feel hurt. I feel angry. And you don't do anything. Well, let me tell you this. When I studied for the bar, I had a picture of a cotton field on the wall. You know why? Because I said to myself, if I don't have to get up and pick cotton today, it's a good day. So what I want you to, and I know I had to take it down a little bit, but I want you to remember this. There are resources that you literally pay for with actual dollars, but that has been paid for with blood, sweat, and tears for you to access. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Okay, so let me talk about this. In your school, you literally pay tuition, don't you? Even if you have a free, people are like, I don't pay tuition, so I'm fine. You pay with your time. You pay with your presence, right? So you could be doing other things, but you decided to do this. So I'm going to go to the paper because I wanted to make sure I don't forget these things. I want you to interact with your administration. Your dean of the law school, your dean of career services, your dean of admissions, they need to know who you are. Not just be like, oh, that's her. Who you are, where you come from, what you want to do. They need to see you in the hallway and be able to wave and be like, hey, how are you? Now you might be, well, there's 800 people in the school. Great, you're the one that I want them to know the name of. Why? Because when there's opportunity for biases to be interrupted, where someone can use their privilege to your benefit, they have to know who you are. They have to be able to know your story and what your value is in order to help you. Number one. Number two, resources, professors. When I talk to you about networking, the first people you should be networking with within the school space are the people who teach you. They're the ones who are going to be the people who give you access in terms of recommendations. So if someone uses and leverages the people who they know and the value that they have to your benefit through a recommendation, through a call to say, oh yeah, this is the student you should pick. Again, that's another way to combat any biases that might show up. So they have to know you. And you know that grading is blind. But if your diversity can be seen, that's not blind, right? Hi, I am the Jamaican one in the row 2. Please know me. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, mentors. How many of you have ever had a mentor? Keep your hands up. When was the last time you sent them an email? You know those hands want to drop. Stop playing around. Put your hands down. You need to utilize your mentor. Today, somebody talked about having a board of advisors. I think you can't collect enough mentors. But similarly to having several girlfriends or several boyfriends, you have to know how to manage. So you can't be like, oh, well, you my boyfriend, so are you, but I'm not going to talk to you for 6 months. But I'm going to hope that you just won't be there for me whenever I need you to. No, that's not how it works, right? So you have to foster them for when you need them. That's another way to combat when biases come into play. Because again, if people don't know they have them, you're not going to know they're being affected by them. So you have to put everything into place so that you are getting the best value. But there's something, Paula, you didn't say this. The underlying premise of all of this is your excellence. What? Your what? Excellence. Oh, the reason why I want you to repeat that is because remember what I just said to you about the blood, sweat, and tears that have been, there's no reason for you not to be successful. There's actually not at all. Zero reason for you not to be successful. Because even if you get into your first semester in law school, but even before that, if right now you're in school and you're like, you know what, Paula, I'm not doing all I can do, you can ask for help. But so many of us don't. We just struggle in silence like Eric. Silence will kill us if we don't say, I need you to help me. Okay? Finally, because there's so many things I can talk to you about, but I wanted to really break down this part. Family. Family can be both a resource and it can drain the living life out of you. Right? If anybody's on the camera, not my family, but other people's family. The reason why I'm saying this to you is particularly because you all want to go to law school is that you have enough on your plate, all the things that I've just said. But then if the family is not being in a helping place so that they can be a resource to help you combat anything that comes at you, if they're actually draining you and saying, I need, then you're getting in your own way, and I told you that's not acceptable. So what are you going to do besides bringing excellence? You are going to think about this at least on a weekly basis. What do you bring to the table? What is your value proposition? Why are you here? And what are you going to do to get to where you say you want to be? So the questions I just asked you, you might be like, well, what does it have to do with combating implicit bias? Because the biggest resource is you. The tagline for my business is engage your hustle. Everybody has a hustle. I believe in not doing the minimum of everything. You have to say, I have to do that part, but I'm going to do so much more because guess what? Martin Luther King didn't have to walk across that bridge. Serena Williams didn't have to do that extra swing. The reason why you get to be all that you want to be is you do more than you have to do. And that's really how, look, you might have somebody who's biased against you in 12 different ways that's affecting you, that's putting up invisible barriers that you don't know exist. But you can jump over some of those things with your hustle, with your mentors, with your administration, with your family, with all the things, with your ancestors. With the come on, man, listen. There's a lot that you've been given, and there's so much that I think you're going to have to bring to the table as both a law student and a current, whatever you're doing right now. If you're in school right now, everything you do from now forward, it must be excellent. Or don't complain. Don't be like, well, why? I can't, but I don't know why this happened. Yes, you do, because you know you could have done more, but you were twerking. Right? And listen, there's a time and a place for it. I understand, listen. But don't say you have a goal and then not do everything towards that goal. And I wanted to sort of lighten it up a little bit because it gets a little heavy. But what I'm saying this is to you is this. Success is in your hands, okay? But similarly to like when you can scoop water into your hands and drink, you can also open your fingers and let all the water fall out. Decide to keep it. Decide to do all that you can do to make sure you're successful. And I know that you are going to, and when you do, you will give me a job. Thank you so much.